I welcome you all to the next lecture in our anthropology series. So we had started 9.5. We have done what is the concept of race and the concept of racism. So today we are going to start with the next part of this topic, that is biological basis of morphological variation of non-metric and metric characters. Now this might sound very tough for you to understand. It's no big deal. इसमें we are just trying to study about the racial classifications, right? So racial classification is the topic for the day, and in racial classification I want you to know basically that अगर हमको if we talk about different races, ठीक है, there are three races that we are talking about. उसके अंदर then there are a lot of other variables, okay, मतलब बहुत सारे और भी सब classifications can come, but mostly there is Caucasoids, there are Negroids, and there are Mongoloids. Okay, so these are the three different races primarily जो हमने classification कर रही हुई है, and then there will be many other races, right? So this is the classification, and this classification we have come up on the basis of two ways. First is the morphological, and second is the genetic classification. Genetic में हम क्या करेंगे? We are going to study about the blood groups, right? We are going to study about chromosomal variation if there are any, right? Then hemoglobin variation. So these are different things that we are going to study. The enzymes blood में जो होते हैं, they are all about the genetic part of it, right? Then morphological part में हम इसको further we can divide it into two parts. One is the non-metric and one is the metric. ठीक है, देखो metric would be something which can be measured and non-metric would be something that cannot be measured on a index level. So जैसे for example if I say what is the inflation, what is the GDP, you will say it's like 8% or 7%. So what is this? You measured, you have calculated and you have come to a term, right? So that is something जो metric में count होता है, something which you can calculate. So उसमें there are a lot of things that we are going to study. For example facial index, ठीक है, nasal index nose का, cephalic head का, cephalic index, then stature, that means height, ठीक है. So these are metric characters, ठीक है, which we can study on measurable quantifiable terms. Then there will be non-metric जिनको we cannot quantify as such, जैसे कि hair color or skin color or the texture of the hair, right? How is the texture of the hair? You can't say it's 2%. What is you cannot say like that, right? You will say either it's coarse, it is soft, like that, right? So these are certain non-metric ways to classify. So I hope you've understood what we are studying in this chapter, how we are going to go about it. So let me first summarize what we are going to study. So racial classification, I've told you there are basically three things that we are going to study: the Caucasoids, the Negroids, and the Mongoloids. And the basis for such classification would be either morphological or genetic, and in morphological, non-metric and metric. So today we are going to study only the non-metric part, okay? So for today our topic is only this. Racial classification में, morphological में, non-metric is the topic for the day. This and this would be the part of later chapters, right? So now let's get started. Okay, so when we do a racial classification, the attributes which we use on which we base the human groups are called races. That means there is classification हम किस पे करते हैं? Based on certain attributes like the head shape, the skin color, the hair type, the body physique, right? These are certain characteristics on which we are grouping the human beings into different groups, and that is what we mean by races or racial classifications, right? And इसमें हमने बात किया, we have the morphological and the genetic type, morphological mein there is non-metric and metric type. The term race is applied to physically distinctive groups. We had talked about this. That means if there are two groups, this group individuals might look similar to each other based on certain characters that we have talked about, right? So this is the concept of racial classification. Now, before we start to do any racial classification, there was a man named Boyd who suggested that if ever, this is D, if ever any classification is done, it should be objective. That means, you should not keep any biases, right? They should know no individual investigators variation, ठीक है, or bias. So that means free from bias होना चाहिए. Second thing, he said that they should, criteria should be least or not influenced by the environment. Now this is very important. क्यों? Because if we say that for example, I talk about anything, जैसे कि hair color है. So, okay, let's take about the body color, right? Body color. अब क्या है? For example, people of European descent are usually white and people of African descent are usually black in color, ठीक है? But it is not going to happen that if a person starts to live in Europe, a person from Africa starts to live in Europe like 5 years or 10 years, he'll become as white as a European. So the characters should be least or not be influenced by the environmental. Obviously, uske skin tone mein there can be little minute difference, but not like he will not become white as such, right? And this we do because we have to classify. If there are characters which are very dependent on the environment, right? So what will happen if you change the geography or environment? ठीक है, the character would change. Then that is not a fit criteria to judge a race, right? That means फिर वो criteria इतना perfect नहीं है. For example, एक time पे you are categorizing as Caucasoid, but if you change the place, now you are becoming Mongoloid, because that character that you are taking is a adaptive character. So that is the thing. That means character should not be influenced or least be influenced by the environment. Then the character should also not go high rates of mutation, because अगर बहुत ज़्यादा mutation होगी, then what would happen? Ultimately, obviously, it will change its character time to time, and then there are possibilities that you might shift into different classifications. ठीक है? Then criteria should be controlled by genetic mechanism. That means it should be inherited in a Mendelian inheritance way. That means वो Mendelian pattern को follow करना चाहिए. That means obviously जब हम कल पढ़ रहे थे, when we were studying about race, we said that race is primarily affected by two things. One is the genetics and second is the environment. That means if you are living in Africa, that is why maybe your skin color is a little dark, because that is a tropical place, and heredity to plays a part. Obviously you are breeding amongst your own group. There are certain characters, certain gene frequency that revolves around in that group, so genetics also plays a part. If there is no Mendelian kind of pattern that of inheritance, that means वो character जो है फिर the frequency of that character will not increase or decrease depending upon the group. ठीक है ना? So if you have a group or if you have a race we are talking about, उसमें कुछ features हैं and they are passed on from generation to generation in a Mendelian inheritance pattern. So it should follow that. So Boyd ने 4 points बोले थे कि while we look at the criterias of classifying any race, so we should look at these 4 primary criteria, ठीक है? And based on this they have come up with certain metric as well as non-metric attributes which we can use, जो हम पढ़ने वाले हैं, the skin color, the hair color, the cephalic index, facial index, blood groups. These are all these are general attributes that on which we classify races, and there has been you can say consensus among people, because पहले क्या था कि अब races, they wanted to study races and variation among races, but how to do it, which criteria should be taken or which attributes should we choose was a question. So then Boyd when he believed कि ऐसा ऐसा हो सकता है, based on that we thought कि okay, maybe these are the best suited criterias that we can take. Now the best suited criterias we are going to study, on which mostly people have the consensus. So let's go with it. This is the basically I have just shown you based on, you can say, from very light skin to a very dark skin. ठीक है, दिस इज इंडेक्सिंग के बेस पे किया है. एंड वेयर आर दीज डिफरेंट पॉपुलेशंस फाउंड. सो यू कैन सी द वाइटर, वेरी वाइट शेड्स आर फाउंड here, right, near the poles and in the very colder regions, right, because of the sun and UV rays का concept जो है, right, because जो UV rays वगैरह है, sun rays are mostly at the equator, right, and so उस हिसाब से then there are different, and इधर भी different है, and here the population has a different color. ठीक है, now we are going to study all of this. Okay, so these are different kind of color shades that are found in different populations. We are going to study about that. Okay, so we talked about कि morphological characters पढ़ने वाले हैं, and morphological में only non-metric, that means the ones that are observable but not measurable. ठीक है, and they are also called as indefinite physical trait. Indefinite physical trait because they are non-measurable. So first comes the skin color. On the basis of skin color, we can say there are three different classifications: the Caucasians, Mongolians, and the Negroes. Negroes would be the black skin color or melanoderms. Melanoderms, ठीक है. The second would be yellow skin people, or they are also known as xanthoderms, and the white skin people, उनको leucoderms बोलते हैं. ठीक है. So skin color has been one of the most important criteria on which we see the populations. I'll just show you. These are different kind of skin colors. ठीक है. So you can see there's a darker shade. ठीक है. And Australoid and Negroid का shade almost similar है. Then this Mongolian shows a little yellow color shade, and Caucasians are whitish to pinkish, you can say like that, right? So इसमें भी there are a lot of जैसे हमने बोला ना, सब क्लासिफिकेशंस होंगे. जैसे वाइट्स में भी देर आर डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ वाइट्स. ठीक है, यूरोपियंस आर ऑल्सो वाइट, देर आर वेस्ट एशियाटिक्स, दे आर ऑल्सो वाइट. Even North African, some part of North Africa, they have also a tawny white kind of a skin. So this leucoderms are people who have from, you can say, tawny white to light brown skin. ठीक है, tawny white to light brown. ऐसा नहीं है कि brown shades जो हैं they are not going to count in the leucoderms. So you can say that it's a spectrum. ठीक है, वो spectrum काफ़ी broad है. And xanthoderms में similarly there'll be people from different area, that is the yellow skinned people. So basically mongoloids count होते हैं इसमें, and then some part of, you can say, African continent also. Bushmen and Hottentots come in the yellow skinned people. ठीक है, now you might be thinking कि how much to remember and what is the way to remember this. It is very simple. It is very simple. Do not worry about this. We have already talked about, there are only three primary races that we are going to talk about. There are the Caucasoids, there are the Negroids, and there are the Mongoloids. इतना तो हमें पता है. Just keep three different people in your mind, तो we will understand a lot about it. एक आप अपने दिमाग में रख लो, एक यूरोपियन इंसान आप अपने माइंड में रख लो. ठीक है, one person, just have a European person in your mind. One, just have a African person in your mind. ठीक है. And Mongoloid के लिए just you can keep either a person from Mongolia or China or Japan, somewhere Southeast Asia का भी आप कोई ले सकते हो, East Asia का ले लो. ठीक है, some person from that उसमें आप एक ले लो. ठीक है. So these are the three people that you have to keep in your mind, and based on this now we are going to draw their character. So इससे हमें पता चल गया कि Caucasians have to be a little white people. Of course, much part of India also comes in Caucasian skin tone. So even आप Indian भी skin tone को याद रखो. That means white to light brown तक आ जाएगा इसमें. ठीक है. Then Negroids would be dark brown to chocolatey brown to black skin tone, and mongoloids are the yellowish skin tone. ठीक है. नाउ अभी हमने इसमें 3 वर्ड्स बोले थे, वो जस्ट याद रखना. फर्स्ट इज द मिलानोडर्म, दैट मीन्स नेग्रोइड्स. देन xanthoderms, that is the mongoloid, and leucoderms means the caucasoid. So skin color done. Skin color में there is no doubt. ठीक है. This is the skin color that we have studied. Now let's go to the next character, which is the hair. Now there are different kind of hair also, and hair में there are different classifications. For example, there is what is the kind of hair form, what is the hair color, hair का texture, ठीक है, abundance of hair, ठीक है. These are different characteristics in hair. Now just let me so we talked about different hair characters. Let me now just tell you. So first let's take hair form. Hair form means there are basically straight hair, we have wavy hair, ठीक है, and we have a, you can say, woolly kind of a hair. ठीक है. So woolly, you can understand, from woolly hair you can understand that it is mostly in the African negroid population. Andamanis maybe you will find that kind of a hair, right? So आप कह लो African, ठीक है. Then Andamanis, Bushmans in Africa, then these are the people who are going to have this woolly kind of hair. Then wavy, Mongolian, wavy you can say, इनका जैसे हमारे एशियन हेयर होते हैं ना, that is wavy hair. ठीक है. Then some parts of Africa and some parts of Europe also. ठीक है ना, यूरोपियंस का भी wavy hair रहता है. एंड स्ट्रेट हेयर जो होता है ना, दैट इज मोस्टली अ मंगोलियन कैरेक्टर. मंगोलॉइड्स के बाल एकदम स्ट्रेट होते हैं, राइट. सो नाउ दिस इज वन कैरेक्टर. नाउ इनके नाम हैं, इफ यू वांट टू रिमेंबर यू कैन जस्ट रिमेंबर. स्ट्रेट को लियो ट्रिची बोलते हैं, लियो ट्रिची, ठीक है. देन वूली को ऊलो ट्रिची बोलते हैं, ऊलो ट्रिची. And then the last one is sorry, did I write okay, sorry, woolly को ulotrichi बोलते हैं. I just mentioned it here, just do it. Woolly is ulotrichi and wavy is kaimotrichi. ठीक है. So I know this is a little hard and these terms are obviously you can say थोड़ा सा टेक्निकल टर्म्स हैं. सो इफ़ यू कैन रिमेंबर, यू जस्ट रिमेंबर, और अदरवाइज स्ट्रेट, वेवी, वूली विल ऑल्सो बी फाइन. You don't need to cram a lot of the things that you forget ultimately. That's not the point. So I'll just now show you the picture also. So भी हमने बोला ये थोड़ा woolly hair आ गया. This would be the woolly type of hair. This is the Caucasian hair, which is the wavy one, and this is the you can say the Mongolian hair, which is the straight one. Straight को we were saying it is known as Liotrichi. Caucasian जो straight to curly में आता है उसमें, या wavy, you can call it wavy, it's Kaimotrichi. And then afro और woolly को आप बोल सकते हो Ulotrichi, right? ठीक है. So these are the 3 kind of hair that are found in different places, okay, different region wise, right, and different races. So similarly इसमें हम hair color का कर सकते हैं. I'll just tell you about the hair color also. So hair color क्या हो गया basically, जैसे कि when we are near the equator, the skin color is dark. Similarly when we are near the equator, the hair color is also dark. Because of the same thing, the presence of melanin in the hair or in the body. So basically melanoderm जो हम बोल रहे थे, let me change the color. Melanoderm that we were saying was what? It's made from the word melano, means melanin, the presence of melanin, right, in the body, in the hair, etc. So जब melanin बनता, melanin is a substance that is produced by our body to prevent us from the UV rays. ठीक है. So if sun's rays are directly at the equator and they these are the regions which get the maximum amount of sun rays, so they need to protect themselves maximum from the UV rays. That is why the production of melanin is there in the body. So in the body also when it is there, तो हम उसको melanoderm बोलते हैं, and it's present in the hair also. So that is why the hair color is also dark. आपने देखा होगा ना, यूरोपियन के गोल्डन हेयर भी होते हैं, राइट, एंड वी हैव डार्क ब्लैक हेयर, जेट ब्लैक हेयर, राइट. सो डार्क हेयर इज ऑल्सो बिकॉज ऑफ दैट. तो हेयर कलर में भी सेम आ जाएगा. यूरोपियन पॉपुलेशन हैज लाइट ब्राउन हेयर, राइट. सो नेग्रोइड पॉपुलेशन हैज even they have dark hair and they have yellowish tinge also to their hair, right. And then we have the Mongolian hair which is also like blackish in color. So color ke basis pe bhi we can differentiate, and then we can differentiate based on the texture of the hair also. For example, the Caucasian hair, they are medium texture hair. That means not coarse, not very soft. ठीक है. Then the African hair are very coarse. That means जो हम you can say that the Negroids hair are very coarse, and then the Caucasian hair हमने बोला medium type होता है, and then Mongolian hair is soft in character. ठीक है. So these are different classification based on the hair texture. Okay. Next comes our eye. Okay. So eye में भी different characteristics are there. जैसे कि eye का opening कैसा है, eye whether there is any fold present on the eye color. These are different characteristics on which we differentiate the eyes. I'll just show you the picture. So you can see there are different eye shades that are shown here, right? Eye shades, and there are different eye shapes also that you can see. So eye shapes के लिए you can see this is a mongoloid eye type, where we have like there is you can say there is certain fold के ऊपर there is a skin, extra skin होती है. There is presence of extra skin, जिसको हम बोलते हैं the epicanthic fold. This extra skin on the eyelid is called the epicanthic fold. ठीक है. So this is a eye of a person who is a non-Mongolian. Eyes में ना there is two. When we say about the extra skin ना, तो it is a mongoloid kind of eye and non-mongoloid kind of a eye. तो mongoloid eye तो obviously mongoloid race में मिलेगा, and non-Mongolian में आपको Caucasian eyes मिल जाएंगी, right. And some part of Negroes also have Mongolian kind of an eye. So this is a normal eye which has no extra fold. Here it's mostly the skin is present here. This is one type of Mongolian eye. Then your extra skin could be present here, right. So these are different type of eye structures. ठीक है. You can remember this. On the basis of eye fold, we say there are only two kind of eyes, Mongoloid and non-Mongoloid, right. Okay. Then comes the nose. Nose is also very important part of the face, and important entity on which we compare the different races, whether it's on the nasal depression, nasal bridge or nasal tip. That means tip of the nose is whether it is sharp, medium, thick, like that. Nasal bridge, whether the nose is like straight or it's like a concave or a convex nose, like that, right. So it could be like this also, right. So this is the side view that I'm showing of a nose. This nose looks very bad. Let me just, right. And then there could be a thick nose, a very petite nose, like that. See, right. And I'll just show you the pictures also. Okay. So you can see these are people from different regions, and their noses. You just see her nose. It has a different kind. It looks like a different kind of nose than a person maybe who has a nose like this, right? Or maybe whose nose is like this, or iska nose, right? So different people have different kind of nose. You can see, right? So based on that also we categorize people. ठीक है. But nose का जो है ना, some part of the nose we study in the metric part. ठीक है. Some part of it we study on the metric part. For example, कितना how much it's this bridge, इसका width to height of the nose जो है ना, वो हम metric part में पढ़ते हैं, ठीक है. So like that we can study about the nose also. Nose जो है ना, we'll cover tomorrow, okay. Then the face form. Again, human faces different types होते हैं, right? They can be oval faces, they can be round faces, they can be rectangular faces, right? Quadratic, pentagonal, different kind of face forms are there. For example, if I make a face like this, or if I make a face like this, or if I make a face like this, right? Or if I make a face like this, right? So there could be different kind of faces that are present, right? Then comes the ear. Ear is very important feature on which we characterize. So earlobe is developed in European and Mongoloids, ठीक है? And the attached earlobe is more primitive feature than the free earlobe. I'll just show you the picture. See, we have three kind of ears that are there. Similar, जैसे हम एक if I have to make a ear, I'll make it like this. But some people's this part, the earlobe part, earlobe is attached. कैसे? Like this. You can see here there is a distance, but here there is no distance, right? Then what is the size of this earlobe? Whether it's a big one, his is, you can see a big one, his is little small one, right? So these are certain characteristics on which you can see here, right? So यहाँ पे आप देख सकते हो distance है. Here there is no distance, there is little distance, right? So these are different characteristics based on which we say that different people, different races have different kind of earlobes. And we have said that Europeans, that means the Caucasians and Mongoloids, earlobe is developed as compared to the Negroids. And primitive ear type कौन सा होता है which is not free, right? Free earlobe कौन सा होता है which has a space. This one would be called the free earlobe. This is called the free earlobe, right? So Negroids में it is not that much free. So these are certain you can say characteristics that we have studied today. I know there are a lot of technical terms, but that is why we are trying to study it like this, slowly, so that we are able to understand a lot of things, right? We are not going to skip at all. So I hope you liked the lecture, guys, and if you did, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you so much.